Good morning. It's day 3 of my solo Adirondacks trip. Last night, I seriously considered going home early. I was feeling kind of lonely, feeling a little melancholic, but then last night was so beautiful, and today is another perfect day, so I just don't think I have the heart to leave early. I think I'm gonna stay another day and stick it out with the bugs. Ordinarily, you're not supposed to camp right next to the water because that can contaminate the water and it can also prevent animals from going near the water that need to, but this is a designated campsite by the New York Department of Environmental Conservation. They do a really nice job with the campsites here. There's a few campsites around the lake. They're all spaced out very nicely, I think, so that it avoids those concerns of overuse. And they definitely monitor the campsites and sometimes close them down if they determine that a site is becoming overburdened. But I mean, this is just, it's awesome. I haven't seen anyone for like 2 days, which is a dream come true for me. It's very beautiful. It's very quiet. It's one of the most peaceful places I've ever been in. Since these campsites do give us the special privilege of camping near the water, it's really important to be responsible with that. So not to wash any dishes or clothes in the water, not to pour anything into the water, not to put anything on your body that is toxic for the fish and the wildlife and then go into the water. It seems there's a bit more wind today. I really hope it keeps up because that will help with the bugs. Weirdo in the woods. Weirdo in the desert. Some parts of Walden so far are kind of reminding me of Mr. Money Mustache and the Minimalists. He rants for 6 pages about how fashion is dumb and he doesn't understand why his friends or his acquaintances aren't happy to have patches in their clothes. Thoreau, I think, there's kind of been not a backlash necessarily, but he's come under criticism recently for being like a privileged white male whose mom was supporting him, and it was easy for him to go off and kind of play in the woods and be like, oh, you should all do this. But like, he does have a point. I think he's not necessarily criticizing people that are really struggling to get by, but it seems to me like he's criticizing people that are sort of caught in this consumption treadmill just for the sake of it and for the sake of appearances, which is still a thing. The cost of a thing is the amount of what I will call life, which is required to be exchanged for it immediately or in the long run. So that's kind of interesting because it's very similar to a movement which I thought was recent, the financial independent retire early movement, popularized widely by Mr. Money Mustache, but there's other bloggers who go along these lines. And then Mr. Money Mustache was kind of preceded by this book called Your Money or Your Life, which talked about trying to understand money in terms of how much of your life do you have to spend working to get it. You have to think about every purchase, especially those huge purchases like a house, in terms of how much of my life am I actually having to spend to achieve this thing. There are certain needs that you have to spend for, but I think especially in American society, we are trapped in this consumerist treadmill, and you're supposed to want to buy bigger and better things all the time. And if you have a family, you have to buy these things for your family to make them happy, to live a good life. But what kind of life are we really leading? Because we have less time off on average than people in other countries, and we're just working to achieve these things. So it's interesting to see those themes being expressed so early in Thoreau, and he's kind of identifying some of the same causes. He does then get a little extreme about it. He criticizes people for having knickknacks in their house, and he hates fashion. He hates architecture, apparently. Any kind of high art is supposedly completely superfluous. Here we go with the proto-minimalism. I had 3 pieces of limestone on my desk, but I was terrified to find they required to be dusted daily when the furniture of my mind was all undusted still, and I threw them out the window in disgust. How then could I have a furnished house? I would rather sit in the open air, for no dust gathers on the grass unless where man has broken ground. I can totally see him. I guess he wouldn't own an apartment or one of those fancy minimalist apartments, but if he did, it would be one of those all-white ones with absolutely nothing in it. Maybe a chair, but I don't know. He might find the chair too extravagant. I think some rain might be blowing in. I just took yet another nap. It hasn't started raining yet, but it really feels like it's going to, so I'm going to eat dinner early tonight, filter some water, and then just hang out in my tent. Here comes the rain. I had just started setting up my dinner, unfortunately, when the rain started, so I'm just gonna sit here and eat my dinner and then go in the tent. Since it's really windy, I'm going to use the bear can to shield the flame a bit. The loon came up really close by my campsite again. I was actually filtering water, so I wasn't looking at the water, and then all of a sudden I heard it make a sound, and I looked up, and it was not far away. It was so cool. They're such beautiful birds. It smells so good. I'm really glad I didn't give up on hot dinner tonight. Look at that. Looks so good. Brought fresh cheese and lime juice this time. It's delish. This weather is really strange. The wind keeps blowing ominously like it's about to really let loose, and then nothing happens, and then it sprinkles a little, and then it kind of dies down. It may not storm at all, or it may storm more tonight. I think either way, I'm gonna go into my tent. I had that perfect campfire night last night, and I'm happy with that, and I'm ready for a cozy night in my tent. And maybe if I go to bed early, I'll get an earlier start tomorrow. My last morning here. I always feel a little sad at the end of backpacking trips. I wish I could stay out here longer. I am also ready to go home though at the same time. Here's what an Adirondacks pit toilet looks like. The hinge flaps up and then there's a toilet. You just do your thing. It's sort of like an outdoor porta potty. I actually prefer this open air design rather than the ones that are inside a little shack because those get really smelly and it's just dark inside. This is actually a lot nicer. Feels a little weird at first, but you do get used to it. The only problem is because there's so many mosquitoes, they totally take advantage and bite me on the butt. It's important to use the pit toilet because it's intentionally located very far uphill from the lake. You can see the lake down there to avoid contaminating the water. Despite the challenges, this has been a great trip and I'm a little sad it's over. It's very overcast. In a way, I guess it's good. It'll help me to leave. The time has come to pack up my campsite and say goodbye to this beautiful place for another year. I don't know if I'll be back next year. We'll just have to see. I'm going to walk around the campsite, pick up all my things, make sure I didn't leave anything behind, pick up any little pieces of trash that I may have left by accident or that other people have left. How nice and dry that spot under the tent is. Did a great job keeping out the rain. Now it's time to get all my junk back into my bag. Does my pack look absurdly overstuffed? Yes. Is it my best packing job ever? No. Did it do the job? Yeah. It's time to say goodbye to this glorious campsite and head on home.